Welcome to Gospel Truth with Andrew Wommack, a teaching ministry that focuses on God's unconditional love and grace. And now, here's Andrew.
Welcome to another special edition of our Gospel Truth broadcast. I've been teaching on the subject of Christian philosophy for weeks, and just on our last program, I started an interview with Dr. Carl Ball, who is a creationist from the Creation Evidence Museum in Glen Rose, Texas. Yesterday was a lot of his credentials and just discussing the conflict between creationism versus evolution, and they're irreconcilable. And we covered a lot of really good things. But on this program, I'm going to continue my interview with him, and we're going to begin to talk about a lot of things concerning creation that he has evidence of in his museum. And I think that this will be a real blessing to you. So we're going back to that interview, and I'll come back at the end of the program today.
I have spent over 40 years researching what the world was like before the flood. And I wanted to know what caused those dinosaurs to get so big. You know, Seismosaurus could raise his head in the air 70 feet, and then could rear up on his hind limbs and raise his head 90 feet in the air. Wow. He was 140 feet long, weighed 200,000 pounds. I wanted to know how creatures got so big.
Now you need to explain just, I've heard a little bit about this, but a biosphere is where you reproduce the atmospheric conditions and things before the flood.
I'm glad you're here to explain what
because some people may not understand what you're saying about biosphere.
You're right. A biosphere is a living is a cloister, a vessel where a person or living systems can function. So this is a big vessel. And in it, we increase the atmospheric pressure. We filter.
Prior to the flood, you believe that the atmospheric pressure was higher?
Yes. And
you filter the light.
We filter. You have done your homework.
I've told you, I've known about you for a long, long time. I've been an admirer from a distance.
Thank you. And we increase the atmospheric oxygen, we increase the humidity and the carbon dioxide. We've built a small one. We're now building a huge biosphere that weighs 92,000 pounds, 48 feet long. I'll be able to go in, to come and go, and in it, in the small one, we ran experiments to see what would happen to living systems. So someone might ask, what difference would that make if you had elevated oxygen, elevated atmospheric pressure? My wife is a universal reactor. She was literally at the point of death. And I made special arrangements to get her in a vessel, a hyperbaric. Hyperbaric means greater atmospheric pressure. At Texas A&M in a hyperbaric chamber, and they increase the oxygen as well. Now, what they do is use a system with a helmet where they give you 100% oxygen for a short period of time to get the result. You couldn't live under 100% oxygen. You would build up oxygen toxicity. So we had about 25% oxygen. You could use it up as you assimilated it. So we were going into the chamber at one time. She did 22 special treatments. Dr. William Fife, the director, looked at her foot and he said, "Martha, what's wrong with your foot? That's an open wound." She said, "Oh, yesterday I dropped some hot water on it. It'll be fine." He said, "We're going to take care of it." Now, do you have any idea how long it takes to heal an open wound? With a person in good health like you, 10 days to 2 or 3 weeks. My wife was in compromised health. So we went into the chamber. He pumped it up to 2 atmospheres, ran the oxygen tube to the helmet, and she was assimilating 100% oxygen. Remember, we can't live under 100%, but he wanted to get a quick fix. He ran another oxygen line past her ankle to her foot, enveloped it in a plastic bag, crimped it, and sealed it. Sat back. He and I talked about the museum. He said, "I want to be on your faculty," because he said, that biosphere is an unusual work. 45 minutes passed. My wife tapped me on the shoulder and said to me through the helmet, "I've had enough oxygen for today." Dr. Fife got the signal. He turned the oxygen lines off, took the helmet off her face. She smiled. Now remember, How long does it take to heal an open wound?
You said 2 to 3 weeks.
10 days to 2 to 3 weeks. And medical professionals would verify that. It had been 45 minutes under something like the pre-flood conditions, something like. He pulled the plastic bag off. That open wound was sealed in a beautiful pink in 45 minutes.
Now, Carl, if this is true, which I'm not doubting you, how come people don't do this more? Why doesn't the medical profession use this?
Well, they do have at certain hospitals, university research hospitals, they have hyperbaric chambers.
Oh, so they do use it. Well, I hadn't heard of it.
For wounds, for healing, for snake bite, for brown recluse spider bite. But the biosphere is much more sophisticated than they have at these university hospitals. And we have other information. I want to know what the real facts were. That's the reason I established the museum. That's the reason I came to Glen Rose.
Well, let me go back to one of the points that you made, and I don't know if you can say this concisely or not, but the Noah's flood is really the explanation for so much of the stuff that the evolutionists say about dinosaurs.
Yes.
Because they believe that this happened millions and millions and millions of years ago. But you are saying that with the pre-flood conditions,
Yes.
that animals, plants, like I saw in a previous video of yours, that you filtered the light and let only that one wavelength through and put a higher pressure, and plants would grow astronomically
Yes.
big.
That's been demonstrated in the secular literature.
Matter of fact, you've got a footprint right over here I'm looking at that tell us about this footprint.
Oh, yes. Well, everything was larger in the past. In the pre-flood world, I wanted to know why dinosaurs got so big. I wanted to know why lepidodendron, which is a lycopsid club moss that today gets 16...
Now, would you say that again?
Oh, okay.
What was that? You're talking about a plant or an animal?
A plant, lepidodendron, the fossil lepidodendron in the fossil record.
Are you speaking English?
Yes.
Okay.
Is a lycopsid club moss. We grow them today, but they get 16, 18 inches in height. But in the fossil record, they got up to 120 feet tall.
Wow.
How could things get so big? Everything was larger in the past. There are remnants.
Well, the Bible even verifies this, talking about the giants.
The
There were
giants in the
in
earth
land.
before the flood.
And of course, Goliath, there's difference of opinion, but some people believe he's at least 9'9", on up to 12, 13 foot tall. That's in the Bible.
Let me tell you a story. We have a footprint. Now to the controversy at Glen Rose. That's what brought me here. I had heard and did not believe that there were human footprints with dinosaur footprints. I still held to long age. So I came and directed that excavation. And my mentor said, all you have to do is excavate one original dinosaur footprint. Well, I assimilated the team. I did excavate that dinosaur footprint. But the team said, let's keep going. So we did. Over the course of 4 days, we had excavated, at that point, 19 dinosaur footprints.
And you just found these in the rock fossil layer along
The Paluxy River.
Biloxi River.
Well, I knew where to start.
Glen Rose is where? Tell everybody where.
Glen Rose is southwest of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, about an hour and a half southwest. And dinosaur footprints have been known, and there was a report that human footprints were among them, but I didn't believe it. Because, according to evolution, the last dinosaur died out 64 million years ago, and the first human didn't appear even in primitive form until 2.5 million years ago.
Oh, really? So
And
that's a variation of 60+ million
60
years?
plus million years. And sophisticated man didn't appear until a few tens of thousands of years ago, according to evolution. And I held to that, even though I held to it in a creation sense, a progressive creation sense. But I was wrong.
Like a theological evolution, that God
Well,
caused it to happen over long periods of time.
The theistic evolution, that God caused it, but he used evolution. But then there was another form of it that I had accepted at that point in time, and that was progressive creation. That God and some people still hold to this, that God created each life form, but He did it over vast periods of time. Created a life form, He let that settle in, and later He introduced another life form, let that settle in, and finally He said, I've got this just right, so He created man. And I held to that. But as we peeled back these layers of rock, and I delicately excavated through the clay, there was a human footprint 17.5 inches from a dinosaur footprint. And that blew my mind.
Now, you discovered this, or was
Yes.
had it already
no,
been?
I discovered it.
You unearthed it.
Oh, yes. And took the team and I, they did most of the work, and I got the credit. You were
leading the...
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
directing it, and they were very happy to be a part of it. They peeled back the limestone, and then I delicately excavated through the clay to the next layer beneath. And then I continued the excavation, and there were 4 of these prints. And I called the press, and I expected them to come down in a few days. They flew down by helicopter. The next morning, I went to the airport to fly out of town, and the front page of the newspaper, Fort Worth Star-Telegram, said, "Track Step on Evolution." Front page, and they reported
Now,
this.
what was the date of this?
That was early April, or late March 1982. So I had to accept it, but I didn't sleep for 4 days and nights because it completely skewed my paradigm. It blew my mindset. Even though I was a creationist, I still held to the long ages. So we're back to the biblical record. And there were giants in the earth before the flood. We have a footprint from the Looters Formation. That's out in West Texas, north of Abilene. That's the Permian Basin.
I got relatives live out there.
All right. And according to evolution, that hard sandstone of the Permian Basin is about 230 million years old. Well, now, earlier I said on your program that according to evolution, man didn't appear until 2.5 million years ago, even in primitive form. And in sophisticated form, he didn't appear until a few tens of thousands of years ago, according to evolution. A footprint, in fact, a series of footprints, we have one of them. A footprint was found in that Permian rock. We took that to laboratories, 2 separate laboratories, and ran spiral CAT scan analysis, reading through the rock to determine if the print is genuine. You see, back during the Depression, at about the time I was born, a man named George Adams verified the human footprints. They had been found by Charlie Moss in 1918 when he returned from World War I.
Now, this is out in West Texas, Permian
No,
Basin?
back to Glen Rose. So putting these 2 stories together.
Okay, gotcha.
In Glen Rose, the dinosaur footprints had been found, and then the human footprints had been found by Charlie Moss.
Now, that was prior to your excavation, so had you heard of this?
I had heard of it, but
you
didn't believe it.
You didn't believe it?
I discounted
Because it didn't fit your evolutionary model.
No, it didn't. So a man named George Adams learned that he could cut human and dinosaur footprints out of the river and sell them for $200 during the Depression. That was a lot of money.
Yeah.
Still is a lot of money. So he found another way to do it. He was good at what he did. Under a shade tree, he carved about 6 dinosaur footprints and 2 or 3 human footprints and sold them. And they were pretty good. But when a genuine dinosaur or human footprint is discovered, if you take that into the laboratory, the compression density made when that creature, man or dinosaur, stepped in the mud, the compression density creates a factor that the lines are more dense, and it shows in the rock. They're compressed.
Right.
Not only under the print, but as the foot moves beside and ahead of the print. So we took one of his carved prints to the laboratory. No compression whatsoever. But everything I'm going to show you with the footprints here, we've taken to the laboratory. Every one of these footprints has compression density under and to the side. They're genuine. We have a footprint from the Permian Basin that is 17 inches long. And when we first got it, I said, I'm going to take this to the laboratory, but it's not going to show any compression because I don't believe it's genuine. Mm-hmm. We took it to the laboratory, 2 of them. It is absolutely genuine. The compression is there. And isn't that too big? Well, there were giants in the earth, the Nephilim. Mm-hmm. But then I remembered. Back in about 1987, I was listening to CBS, National News. They said in Mozambique, the missionaries reported that a girl came out of the bush to get her shots. She's 13 years old, 10 feet 4 inches tall.
Wow.
Now you said Goliath was about 9.5. I think you're right. 6 cubits in the span. Mm-hmm. But here's this girl, 13 years old, 10 feet 4 inches tall. Her foot would be longer than 17 inches.
You know, I was at a boxing match in Fort Worth when I was 18 years old, and there was a man down close to the ring who was bald-headed, and it looked like he was standing up the whole time, and I wondered, why is this guy standing? And then he stood up. He'd been sitting down.
Oh my.
And he was a giant, and I ran down and stood next to him, and he was called the Corn King Giant. I don't know if you ever heard of him here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area,
I didn't.
But there was a Corn King, some product, and he promoted their product. And I stood next to him, and my eyes came to his belt buckle. He was 9 foot 9 inches tall, and I stood next to that man. So I know that those things can happen. And I'm looking at this footprint right here. And even though most people would say that that couldn't be true, you've had that scan on it.
Oh, yes.
And the compression is there. That is an accurate footprint. And let me just go back to one thing that we said at the very beginning of this, that if man and dinosaurs were supposed to be separated by millions, over
64 million years.
If they were supposed to be separate, what does that do to evolution if you can put a human footprint with a dinosaur footprint?
I'm glad you asked that. Dr. Ernst Mayr, considered the world's leading evolutionary biologist, Dr. Ernst Mayr of Harvard, said in a debate with Dr. Duane Gish, a leading creation scholar, member of a Nobel laureate team. Dr. Ernst Mayr laughed in the debate, and he said to Dr. Gish, the creationist, if your friends along the Paluxy can actually, Paluxy River, Glen Rose, Texas.
That's where we are.
That's the reason this museum, that's the reason I selected Glen Rose. The Dallas Times Herald a few years ago wrote a front page article stating, Glen Rose is the scientific battleground of the nation. Meaning that if we can literally prove that man and dinosaur lived at the same time, evolution is destroyed. So Dr. Ernst Mayr said in that debate, public debate, if your friends along the Biloxi River, Glen Rose, can actually prove that man and dinosaur lived contemporaneously, he said, Dr. Gish, that would devastate our entire theory of evolution. We would have to start all over again.
Amen.
And he admitted that.
Amen.
And it does.
So as we were watching this segment today, I actually had one of my employees here talk about that her husband took some of these hyperbaric treatments and that it really works. And so, you know, anyway, these are things that when you start hearing these things from a scientific standpoint, it just gives credibility to what the Bible has to say about the way God created it. And all of the layers of rock and all of these things and the large size of animals and people, etc., can all be explained by the pre-flood conditions that were in the earth. As a matter of fact, after I get through interviewing Dr. Carl Baugh, I think we have 5 or 6 programs with him. But after I get through interviewing him, I'm going to go to Dr. Grady McMurtry and have him explain some things about how that the waters Claved is what his DVD is entitled, and it talks about that this supercontinent where everything was all one, when the earth split and the waters from inside of the earth came up, this is what called the continental drifts, and he's going to talk about the flood specifically, and all of these things that scientists are attributing to hundreds of millions of years were caused by one gigantic flood, and we're going to be showing a lot more scientific evidence about that. But I tell you, I'm doing this to show you that I believe that the Word conclusively proves that God created the heavens and the earth. They didn't evolve, but we are offering these scientific explanations to you just for your own benefit. And I would like to encourage you to please get the new materials that we're operating. This is a brand new book on this, and we have a lot of these statistics and charts and graphs and many things in here that could be a real blessing to you. So please listen to our announcer and take advantage of these materials.
On today's program, Andrew interviewed Dr. Carl Baugh. If you'd like to learn more about Dr. Baugh's ministry, visit Creation Evidence Museum's website at creationevidence.org. Andrew's complete teaching titled Christian Philosophy is available in a brand new book for £9.99. Or you can get this teaching in a companion study guide that's perfect for home groups, Sunday schools, and for individual study. It's been designed so that anyone, anywhere, at any time can reach an unbeliever, disciple a new believer, or grow with others in the Lord. Not only is the entire teaching included in the study guide, you can also print off as many copies as you'd like when you download the PDF files from the included data CD. This valuable resource is available for £17.50. This teaching is also available on either CD or DVD as seen on TV for £30. Go to awme.net and click on today's TV offer to see the options. Andrew's fifth audio teaching in today's series is titled Creation versus Evolution Part 1. It's available for £3 when you write or call. But if you're simply unable to afford it, Andrew and his partners will send this fifth CD free of charge. You can use your credit card to order resources through our website at awme.net. While you're there, you can discover more product details and download additional free resources. Or you can order through our helpline Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Our helpline number is 01922-473-300. When calling from outside the UK, you must dial your international calling code, then 44-1922-473-300. If the lines are busy, remember you can order ministry materials 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at awme.net. To write us, use the address on your screen. We hope to hear from you today. We'd like to point out Andrew's upcoming speaking schedule. Mark your calendars to come meet Andrew at one of these events and let the Word of God transform your life. He'll be in Warwick, England for the Andrew Wommack Ministries of Europe Ministers Conference October 22nd through the 24th, in Kampala, Uganda for a Gospel Truth Seminar October 26th and 27th, at the Glory of Christ Church in Kampala Sunday, October 28th. He'll also be in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for a Gospel Truth Seminar November 8th through the 10th, and at Calvary Cathedral in Fort Worth on Sunday, November 11th. For more details on Andrew's next meeting in your area, call our helpline or visit our website at awme.net.
If God asked you to leave your comfortable lifestyle, move to one of the most violent parts of the world, and be a living example of His love and grace, would you say yes? Meet world changer Dennis Stauffer, CBC graduate, class of 2006. Dennis answered God's call on his life, attended Charis Bible College, and moved to an area of Guatemala where even the police were afraid to go. In just 3 short years of practical ministry, the truth that Dennis learned at CBC has literally transformed this part of Guatemala. Lives have been changed, crime and violence have decreased, and police have returned to the area. CBC graduate Dennis Stauffer. He's changing lives in Guatemala. Change your life. Change the world. Log on to charisbiblecollege.org for more information on how you can become a world changer. Charis Bible College in Andrew Wommack Ministries. Have you ever wanted to check out back issues of Gospel Truth magazine from Andrew Wommack Ministries? They're available online at awmi.net. Just log on to our website, look to the left, and click on Extras. Then look to the left again and click on Online Magazines. Once you're there, you're free to browse through our selection of Gospel Truth magazines from years past. Check out some great articles and be sure and check out the current issue while you're at it. Gospel Truth Magazine, now available online at awmi.net.
We were under a curse. And a lot of us Christians go to the grave without ever knowing grace. My name is Joe. We came out of an abusive church. Everything we did or didn't do, if we didn't do it, we were under a curse. The problem was God had been dealing with me on one particular scripture, and it was in Galatians about Jesus becoming the curse for us. And this was my heartfelt cry to the Lord. I said, Lord, did Satan have something in his back pocket, a curse that you just didn't see? Why are we always cursed? I'm a very light sleeper, so I used to put the Christian station on because I would hear him talking about being cursed, screaming for money, and I would set the timer for a half hour, 30 minutes, and I'd be sound asleep by then. That was my sleeping pill. So this guy, Andrew Wommack, comes on, and he's sitting in a chair. He's got this monotone voice. I couldn't imagine where they got him from. This was a perfect sleeping pill.
Galatians 3:13 says, Jesus redeemed us. Redeem means the liberating effect that's procured by the payment of a ransom.
The very thing God was dealing with me on that particular scripture in Galatians, Andrew was preaching on it. What he said had sat so right with me, and I said, I got a hunch. This is what I've been looking for a long time. I believe in everybody's heart, there's a certain spot reserved for grace, reserved for grace, reserved for grace.
Walk in that healing, because I tell you,